as immigrants, we step into a brave new world, leaving behind cherished loved ones and familiar tribal connections. But on the other hand, in the midst of leaving, we are not losing. As a matter of fact, we often discover that family isn't just about blood ties. It's about the bonds we build with the strangers that crosses our paths and extend a hand of friendship, and they become our family in the new world as we displace ourselves. So, because of that, today I decided to invite my dear friend Michael Wilkie to the platform and into the space, and we want to tell you guys and share with you guys the story of our friendship, since this is a storytelling platform. So help me welcome Michael Wilkie, and let me just brief you guys as far as his background. So Michael is the founder and owner of Aspire Health and Fitness, which he opened in January 2000 at just 20 years old. His passion for fitness began in 1994 when he picked up a muscle and fitness magazine at the grocery store. By the next day, he was lifting weights in his backyard with his dad's old cement plates. I can't imagine Dan's face when he saw you. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. Michael moved to Nashua, New Hampshire in 1998, working as a personal trainer before officially launching Aspire Health and Fitness in January 2000. Over the years, Aspire has evolved with the industry. I'm a witness to that. Adding nutrition coaching 2007, online coaching 2017, base coaching 2019, and small group training in 2025. Through it all, Michael's mission has remained the same, helping clients not just achieve their goals, but build the skills to sustain health and fitness for life. It's all true. All right. Thank you, Michael, for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so excited for this episode. I know how busy you are. And also, I had to cancel on you because I lost my voice. It's
no worries. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start by sharing with our listeners and our viewers how we found each other. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, so it would have been, back 2008, 2009, I believe. I was actually at I think it was, what do you call it, like a health type fair or something to that effect, actually at your guys' community that you live in. They were having some type of something in there, and actually I had a table set up. An endodontist that you work with back in the day that you guys referred business back and forth, he was a client of mine, and he had recommended you guys check me out. So funny thing is, Ehab, your husband, whom if I wasn't married to your BFF, he would be my boyfriend. But he actually came up and dropped a check on the table. Didn't say a thing, just dropped a check on the table for sessions. And here we are, however many years later. That is almost 20 years later. Yeah, and it's been great.
Yeah, see what happens when you take Ehab's money? You can't get rid of them.
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, you guys, I guess you weren't, happy with your health and fitness at that time. And again, the endodontist had been a client of mine, his whole family, even his son. And he had referred you guys to come check me out. So we had that brief conversation, and you guys became clients the next day, I think. And I think it was about 70 pounds each later. That's
true. That is absolutely true. Funny story. I'm going to share this story with you guys later, but I just want to tap into your transformative journey, really. So when I met you was 2009 when Ehab signed up with you. Yes, it was a colleague, an endodontist, that took Ehab under his wing, because Ehab, so that year he was diagnosed with insulin resistant. And his doctor said, hey, listen, you're so young. I know you can lose the weight. I'm not going to put you on any medication, because he was like 40, 41. So our colleague, who was our friend at the time, he took Ehab under his wing, and he started taking him to the gym. Ehab started running. He lost a little bit of weight. He started taking him to the gym to weight train with him. And then Ehab, I guess, expressed his frustration with like the weight loss. And then he recommended you. And that's when they went to the wellness fair where we live here in the clubhouse here. And I remember the day he came home, he goes, I signed up with a personal trainer. And I'm like, you cannot commit to eating the right thing. How are you going to commit to a personal trainer? And I'm thinking, not because I give up on him, just because I know him, that he's going to blow you off, right? So I remember you recommended for me to come with him for the first meeting. And I would never forget the first question you asked us, who cooks at home? And I said, you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you looked at me and you said that you're the most important person that I need to talk to for Ehab to be successful, to lose his weight.
Mm-hmm.
So start talking, and you looked at me, and I was honestly sitting there like, I don't know why I'm here. I was 60 pounds heavier than what I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you did ask me, are you interested? Do you want to lose weight together? It will help encourage him. And since you guys don't have kids, and you cook together and you go out together, I think it would be a really good idea. And I said, yeah, sure. And you asked me, so how many pounds do you want to lose? And I said, maybe 20 pounds. And you said, get real. Once you put a bigger goal for yourself, that way it will be a lot more attractive. 20 pounds is so easy. You can lose 20 pounds of water just by changing your food. So I said, all right. If I lose 50, that's fine. And you said, let's do 60. And I said, okay. So that's when we signed on together with that program. And I think that was my first experience with understanding the connection between diet and lifestyle. Remember, I come from a very conservative culture that, orbits around food and gathering, and, it's very old-fashioned customs. And I was very intimidated by the challenge, because I'm thinking, it's like, oh my God, Arabic food, there's no way we're going to lose weight if we because that's what we cook. Not traditional, but it's kind of a hybrid between Western food and Arabic food. And I was almost like discouraged, and I'm a task oriented. So I took all the information that you gave me that day. I revamped the whole kitchen, the way even we shop for food until this day, Michael, is based on what you taught us in 2009. So it's just an amazing process how one person can actually inspire you in a way that his or her teachings become the basically the model or the principle of how we live actually today. And as you know, Ehab is now on Ozempic shots because he is, his diabetes got worse because he wasn't very consistent with the gain loss and gain weight. But beside that point, that was transformative for me, how I felt. And I'm glad that I lost that weight before I hit menopause, because that's, I met you 2009, 2012. I had the full hysterectomy. Then I fell into perimenopause and then menopause. And I'm glad, I can't even imagine if I was overweight, the type of medical conditions that I had to deal with on top of going through menopause. But even you as a person, as my friend, when I met you, you were a single dad. How old was your son? Was he 4, I think, right?
Oh no! Well, gosh, so Pam and I have been together for 18 years, and so Squish Ivan was 2 years old.
2.
When Pam and I started dating. So Well, actually, no. I suppose right around 2-3 years old, somewhere around.
Yeah. So you were a single dad with a 3-year-old, working, at the gym, and advocating for that. I remember you used to call the Diet Doc for that program, and we signed on. You were dating your future wife. There were so many unknowns, in your life. And now when I look at you and I reflect reflect on your journey, it's fascinating and inspiring. But what is it that ignited the passion about, wellness and diet? I know about the magazine, which I did not know that. How old were you when you picked up that magazine?
Yeah, so how that started was, I was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. I had gone to the same private school from preschool, kindergarten to high school. So it was the same 30 kids. I could recite all their names now, and so it was it was a bubble. Didn't really get outside of that bubble too much. So anyway, halfway through my freshman year of high school, we ended up moving from the San Francisco Bay Area up to Vancouver, Washington, which is about 3 hours south of Seattle. It's actually right on the border of Washington State and Oregon. And so anyway, just being in a new environment, I didn't know too many people. I remember trying to figure out what I was going to do. I'd always been athletic, always doing sports and those types of things, football, specifically baseball. And that was it. And even bowling. But it was one of those things where I just happened to go to the grocery store with my mother one day, and I was standing at the checkout aisle, and just magazine on there, muscle and fitness, and I picked it up, and I started flipping through the pages, and I was like, huh, and just asked my mother, hey, can I buy this? And she bought it, and I went home that night and was reading through the magazine, and by that night I knew what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And it wasn't one of those things where I knew exactly what that was, what it actually ultimately turned out to be today, but I knew it was in some form or fashion this is what I wanted to do. I don't know if it was because if you will, bodybuilding is very much an individual sport. It's very much an individual endeavor. It's one of those things that you really do it by yourself, especially back in those days. This is the mid to late 90s, where it's not as popular, back then as it is today. So for me, it was really, a matter of control, I suppose. I'm very much one who loves and thrives on control. But it was something where I could really, it could be about me. I had to rely on myself. I didn't have to rely on anybody else. Not that I ever had an issue with that, but it was just, oh, okay. And just to see what, anyone, man or woman, could do with their physique just through, hard work and all these types of things. And, obviously too, being 16, 17 years old at that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone are all the rage. So the action, muscle guys, we didn't have The Rock back in those days, but, so that certainly played a role in, me glomming onto that. But, really that was it. And so, I started lifting weights, and yeah, my dad had these, cement plastic covered weights, in the backyard, that I have no doubt he did, but I never saw him lift those a day in his life. He was more of a runner. I can remember chasing my dad on my bike when he would go running after work. So I was like, oh, cool. So I just started, copying some of the stuff that I saw in the muscle and fitness magazines, and, and then slowly started getting myself inserted into gyms. They were around, but again, this is 1994, 1995, 1996. So it just wasn't, all we had back then was World Gym and Gold's Gym. That was it. There wasn't, all these, 24-hour fitness, Planet Fitness, any of this other stuff, even the little micro gyms, and they just didn't exist. So, I was able to get myself inserted into one, and, then I begged and pleaded with the owners of that gym to let me work there. And I was actually underage when I was applying, but it's a story that I tell my son Ivan, today, about as far as, initiative and stick-to-itiveness and persistence is. On my mother in heaven, I had to have called them once a week for 2 to 3 months. And the response every time was, you're too young, you're too young, you're too young, you're too young. And finally, it was like a month before my birthday. When's your birthday? All right, fine. And so, yeah, I was sitting at the front desk and cleaning toilets at night. And it was the best thing in the world to me, and slowly started getting into coaching and training and, for that gym out there, and then moved out here in 1998 and started working for the gym here. And then, found out that, hey, this is a thing. This is something that I can absolutely do, not even do, but do for myself. I don't actually have to work for anybody else. I can, as you well know, being an entrepreneur, it's one thing to, do something you love. It's another thing to do something you love with your name on the wall, kind of things. Here we are today, 20, just finishing my 26th year.
My God, Michael, I've been in dentistry 27 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's funny, 1998, I was in Ohio,
Mhm.
and you were doing your thing. I was still finishing, no, sorry, 1998, I was in dental school. Now, think about 1989. Dental school, I was a junior, so I had one more year of dental school, and you were getting all that, setting up for the future, and I was setting up for the future.
Hell, I'm still setting up for the future.
It never ends, by the way. You're always setting up for the future. Even if you ask Ehab, there's so much still to do. But let me back up a little bit now. You're a military child, right?
Yes. So I was actually born in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We lived there for 6 months. I may need to be corrected on this, but I think I'm close. We lived there for 6 months, before my dad, who was in the Air Force, he was transferred to England, Ipswich, England, which is where my brother was born. We lived there this is where I'm a little fuzzy. I think we lived there for 4 years. Then we moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where my mother was born and raised, in 1982. I would say I was raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, but all that to say to your question about being a military, but my mother told my father he was done, after the 9-year mark. So he got out sometime in the early 80s and then went into tech type stuff. So, yeah.
So the reason why I'm asking, because do you think part of the fact that your dad was in the Air Force, did that add more a disciplinary kind of attitude about life? Because you're very disciplined. I wish Ehab has 1/10 of your commitment to discipline and structure. Do you think that's where it's rooted, or, and the displacement, going from United States to the UK, from UK, traveling, being displaced, sometimes that has, whether positive or negative, effect on children, view about life and what they want to do. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say no 100%, but if I'm being honest, my dad, his work schedule was so different. He always worked the graveyard shift. My parents if my mom was still alive, they would have been married for 50 years. Great home life. My brother and I never saw any type of anything like that. He just wasn't around as much because of his work schedule. He always worked the graveyard shifts. He was always, upper, level management, like supervisor type stuff. All that to say is that, it was certainly one of those situations where what my father said is what it was kind of thing. There was really no other conversation to be had. I want to give him some credit, but I also think too, a lot of it, I think, was just, my own upbringing and perhaps, struggling with some confidence when I was younger and doing a lot of reading and doing a lot of things as far as like, okay, if this is what I want to try that again. If this is what I want to achieve, this is what I'm going to have to do to achieve that. And while I was never always the best at that, the intention was always there. The desire was always there. And so I was always, very, Pamela, my wife, she has on more than one occasion, with a little twinkle on her eye and a smirk on her face, has said, how militant I can be when it comes to my structure and regimen and stuff like that. And quite honestly, I for a while there, I actually thought that it was like, oh, I need to calm down. I need to relax. I need to, loosen up. And it's like, no, I'm not happy when I need to be rigid and tight and structured. It actually calms my mind, believe it or not. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I think, partly from my dad, but I think partly too, just my own experiences and, figuring out what it is I want to do and figuring out how to do that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a personality style trait, because I am very much task oriented. And I think Ehab and Pam are very much the same, because they're different even with their habits too. I'm a lot more militant, systematic, and when I put my mind into it, I commit to it, and the follow through too. I'm very good at maintaining what I have achieved to help it grow. Where Ehab, he jumps from one thing to another, and I just don't know how you trained him. Honestly, I don't know how. It takes a bigger person and a very strong person to keep Ehab on path the way you did it. But go ahead.
So let me interject. And this actually goes back to the question that you just had about the discipline factor. So because of the way that I am, one of the things that I struggled with, specifically back in the day, not so much today, although from time to time it can creep up. To put it bluntly, I've always been one of those people, regardless of, who you are, what the situation is. If you want to do something, you either do it or you don't do it. I don't want to hear complaining. I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear this, that, and the other thing. I was very much, if you said you want to do this, that's what you're doing. Well, in what it is that I do, that doesn't fly, because I have to be able to meet clients where they are at. I have to be able to adjust myself from one client to the next. And so some clients might need more of a, pat on the shoulder. Hey, good job. Da, da, da. And then I'm very much the type of client that is, hey, Mike, if I'm the client, hey, Michael, I need you to get your head out of your backside. Let's go. Let's do this kind of thing. That I respond best to that. And so I've really had to, from that discipline factors, and it's something that it's taken me a while to develop. And again, we're talking years and years ago. I think I'm a lot better with it today. But you said you want to hear some stories. Let's use Ehab as an example, since you brought him up. You actually, at a Christmas party we had years ago, you made me do my impersonation of me coaching Ehab. I don't know if it's okay to share this in the podcast, but you'll have Ehab in a workout, and I'll be looking directly at him, and I'll say, okay, we are doing lat pull downs. You're going to do a set of 12 repetitions, and when you get done, I want you to go straight over to that barbell, and I want you to do 12 curls. And Ehab will be like, what are we doing? Because what happens is his mind is always going a mile. And it's not because he's stupid. It's not because he's a dope. It's not because he doesn't care. It's not because he's not paying attention. He is one of the most passionate people I've ever met. He's one of the most, just a great overall guy. But I've always argued that his situation is because he's perhaps a little too smart. We always joke that he is going to show up one day as a superhero because he did something he wasn't supposed to be doing, because that mind is just going and going and going. So what I have to be able to do, and all joking aside now, is, in situations like that, be able to say, okay, hey, adjust the way that I'm communicating to a client to ensure that they can get the most out of it, and realize that, again, we're all going to respond differently. And, we just have to be flexible with that. And, he did do a great job with that.
No, he did. And that taps into, managing clients' expectations. Like we teach in our business is managing patients' expectations. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the many strengths that you have, is customizing the experience to every single client. Because I used to see with Ehab, you're completely different than me. And the way you train me, of course, because, I'm a female, a certain size, certain height, certain strength, I did, it is a different routine regimen, but even your approach and your persona, mm-hmm. when you approach me, you used to switch hats, and you're very good at that. That's another thing we try to teach our team in order to be successful. And in managing patient expectation, you need to put your personality aside and be able to switch the hats depending on who you're dealing with. Read the room. That's the saying. And I believe from what I observe, watching you transform into who you are today, I think that's one of the strengths that you have. You have a very high level of self-awareness and social awareness, and you can read the room. And I watch you how to approach certain clients strategically in order to maximize on their potential, and also as a result, maximize on the results. So here we are 2009, we met and we started training, we lost the weight. Where do you think that our friendship grew out of?
Ehab. No, seriously. I mean, that's just who he is. I mean, Ehab is one of those.
What was about Ehab for somebody like you?
Just his personality, right? I mean, I mean, it's just his personality. I mean, for God's sake, what was how many Easters ago we were at a restaurant, he's on my back, or I'm on his back, right? He's piggyback and we're running around the parking lot and I'm smacking his backside like he's a horse or something. Like, it's just who he is, and it's like, that's something that I'm drawn to, being silly, being stupid, being a dope, and having fun and those types of things. But, more seriously to your question is like, wow, I at the end of the day, let me share this story with you. So 2007-ish, give or take, I'm in the bathroom at the gym. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere crazy with this. I'm in the bathroom at the gym. This other coach, fairly new, good kid, he walks up and he's standing next to me and he starts asking me this question while we're going, and I'm just like, really? This can't wait? But his question was, man, Michael, I have these clients when they come in, I'm coaching them. They just want to talk, and while they're doing the exercises that I want them to do and so on and so, they're just talking and they're doing it. Can clients just come in, do what I ask them to do, and that be it? I don't want to learn about their kids and all. And I shook my head, and at this point, I'm 8 years into my business, so I have a good understanding of how the business goes in these types of things. I'm pretty well established. And I said to him, if you can't learn to communicate, if you can't learn to talk to your clients, it can't just be about the working out. You're never going to be successful. And admittedly, I don't ever know what happened to that young man, if he ever, stuck it out or if he's still doing it today. But it is one of those things, and this ties back into Ehab. It's like me, which hat do I wear depending on the client? I had a client in this morning, she comes in to see me 3 times a week. And now oftentimes with my clients, when they come into the gym, I'll have 2 or 3 people going at a time. And there are conversations that are being had. On the rare occasion that it's just her and I in the gym, like today, there's no talking. I'll ask her questions and stuff like that. Hey, how was the weekend? How was this and that? I'll get just enough, whatever, but there's no type of communication. Then you get somebody like Ehab, who they'll do the work, but he also wants to communicate about the latest movies and the this and the that and where we going to dinner and all these kind of things. And honestly, for me, I enjoy something like that because I think it's important to make those human connections and stuff like that. I also love hearing about, what he did for a living before, running the business and those types of things, the dental practice there and so on and so forth. So just getting to learn and meet different people. And, I being honest, and this is why I laughed and kind of cut you off when I said Ehab, because, as Pam and I, we don't have the type of relationship with any other past former clients, like we do with you guys. So hopefully that answered your question there.
No, it's fascinating for our viewers and our listeners to see how it is actually possible. I'm a female, you're a male, I'm in dentistry, you're in fitness. I come from a very conservative culture, you're from a Western culture, I'm of Muslim faith, you're from Christian faith. But we're still together, our friendship are, advancing, transforming together as business owners, as adults, as, walking into the advanced years of our lives. Ivan now, he's out of the house. He's doing his own thing.
20 years old.
It's crazy. We were so fortunate and blessed to watch him grow into the young man that he is today. Mm-hmm. That alone was a treat for us. But we are living proof, all I'm saying, as an immigrant who displaced themselves to find this kind of a strong friendship. So I've been, your friend longer than I have been in a relationship with my own sister. Because when I left, I was 19 years old. She was 9 years old. Mm-hmm. So, I only had maybe 10 years of friendship with her, and then I left Saudi Arabia. So I had a much longer relationship with you than one of my siblings. So all I'm saying is when you think about it that way and when you start realizing the process of this friendship as an immigrant, finding somebody that is completely polar opposite from two different worlds, two different cultures, but yet we can come together and we can grow together and we can find so much in common that our friendship actually feeds upon. And your wife, Pam, my BFF, is the director of the human resources, and she is now the co-CEO of Greenwood Dental Brand right now. I stepped down and I gave my position to Pam. Now, the other thing about it, when we get together as friends. The work relationship does not interfere with how our friendship is growing and moving forward. And that's not an easy thing to have.
Yeah.
Or is a simple thing to have because it's really hard to separate, but somehow we managed to do that over the years.
I just had that conversation with somebody. Actually, somebody was asking however long, I know what was a month or so ago, maybe 2 months or so ago, that the four of us went out to dinner, and somebody was asking, what y'all got going on? And I can't remember how it came out, but I said that we were going out to dinner with you guys, and my client said, isn't that your wife's boss? Isn't that weird? And I said, well, technically, yes, they're her boss, but they're also, they're some of our closest friends. And then in another conversation, somebody said something about, you don't want to work for your friends kind of thing. And I said, it's funny, you would think so, and that's typically the case. But as far as I know, there's not been one situation where there's been any type of conflict, as far as the, relationship of, her being the CEO and the HR and all these types of things, and, working with you guys, that you guys, the three of you have never had any internal conflict that's affected the friendship in any way, shape, or form. And I know that's rare. And I was going to say, you'd ask, what do you think is a contributing factor to that? I had first blurted out EHOB, and I still stand by that. But then I would also say Pamela too, because that's just who she is as a human being. She's, I've always said she's one of the nicest, sweetest people you ever meet. I have no business being married to her. I certainly married up. She get mad at me when I say that, but, it's just, I think it's just the different personalities. And I think where somebody like me, where I'm a bit more, I'm certainly by no stretch of the imagination shy at all, but I think I'm a bit more introverted, where those two are not. So I think it's a nice, balance there and stuff like that.
Yeah. And, when I reach out to you and I said, I want you to come on, as a guest and stuff. And it really prompted me to take a micro view on our friendship and just kind of reflect on the past and how did it grow, like the stages of growth. But just for the sake of our viewers and listeners, what do you think was the magic formula of us being successfully maintaining that friendship, like you said, without having too of controversial conflict that, we stop talking to each other. We're constantly in touch. We don't see each other every single week, but when we get together, as if we saw each other the day before, we always pick up where we left off. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Partially is the personality styles. I think it's just complement each other, but there must be a secret behind. There must be more than that. Is it I think because we respect each other's space. I think we respect each other as professionals. We admire each other as a business owner, and Pammy, even Pam transformation, when she started with us, she was just an admin, a friend answering phone calls. And she went through a huge self-improvement, and God knows that her life is not easy. It's not a cakewalk, basically. She had so many different challenges in her personal life that she conquered, and she, managed to adapt to all the stuff that life threw at her, and she never missed a beat at work. That is, I think, I agree, it comes from or stems from her high level of professionalism.
Mhm.
I never seen, and we do disagree on a lot of things, but I watch myself because I don't like to invade her space and her authority. When you're
Mhm.
empowering somebody, you cannot just take that empowerment away, right? You
Mhm.
empower them because you want them to grow into something absolutely beautiful. So she went from there to the director of human resources, and now she's a co-CEO with EHOB. God bless her dealing with that. I think I owe her a lot because I had to. No, I don't have to worry about him now. It's just chief clinical officer. But what do you think? Let's bring you in with your thoughts.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with effort on either side, as far as being willing to connect, outside of the workspace, or outside of that client business relationship. Where you guys were clients of mine, and then she was working for you, being willing to say, hey, let's go ahead and get together, hang out, let's have some dinner and stuff like that. And I think it's just consistency over time of doing that. I also think too, the biggest thing is, like, because I know, what you're talking about is, for people coming to this country from another country, and, being able to, meet people where, I wear a cross around my neck, and you guys don't necessarily, that's okay. It doesn't mean that we can't be friends. And to be quite honest, I've always thoroughly enjoyed listening to the conversations. I think we may have just had that conversation the last time we were out to dinner, where we were talking a little bit about religion and stuff like that, and different perspectives and such like that. I think it just comes down to saying, hey, I'm Lutheran, Christian, you're Muslim, all these types of things. Hey, we can still be friends. We don't have to, agree on, how we get to our reward, and all those types of things. And we certainly don't have to, disagree either. It could be, more so coming with the attitude of, having an open mind and being willing to learn something new, listen to somebody else's point of view and perspective. I think we've always done a pretty good job of that. And obviously, I think, the sense of humor is always important. But at the end of the day, honestly, I really think, I don't know that it's a magic formula so much as I think it's just kind of basic stuff. It's like, what I talk to clients about with weight loss, there's no secret formula, there's no diet, there's no workout, there's no nothing. It's just consistency over time. God, that's just it. And it's just keeping it as simple as humanly possible. Pam and I have been grateful to be, a part of you guys' lives through some of the challenging times that, you guys have gone through as well. And, you certainly have been there for us during some of those challenging times. And, I think when that happens, enough, over the course of, whatever the math is, almost 20 years, I suppose, it's one of those things where it just becomes easier over time,
Yeah, but don't forget that, with life-changing events, whether pleasant or unpleasant changing events, we change. The beauty about our friendship too is, like you said, both ends went through a lot of life-changing events, but we dealt with it, detoured, but we always came back. We detoured and always came back, and we met at our, what I call a familiar spot. But that's, again, a proof that you can have friendship and relationship beyond the blood ties of family or kin, to have that relationship, and you have that connection, and then build that consistent connection, build that trust, and then trust build comfort, and comfort build confidence that I can lean on you. I can, lend a hand. I know you're going to be there for me. And it's very important for our viewers and listeners to know that I have attended Christmas at your Lutheran church. I have attended Easter at your Lutheran church. You had my father-in-law, may he rest in peace, over for Thanksgiving, I remember.
That's a funny story.
That's a whole episode, but you're more than welcome to share that, because we weren't
I'll
there.
Share that. I'll share that.
Yeah.
So you guys were in Miami for Thanksgiving. Gosh, this was 2017, I think. 17. And Pamela, she's not going to allow it. Muhammad, Ehob's dad, she wasn't going to allow Muhammad to be by himself on Thanksgiving. So we had Muhammad over to the house. So I picked up Muhammad Thanksgiving morning. He came over to the house, and he's an older gentleman, very quiet, these types of things. And my crazy ass family was there, and everything like that. But everybody was very nice to him, and he was very much a part of everything. Well, at the end of the day, whatever, if we had Thanksgiving around 2:00 in the afternoon, Thanksgiving dinner around 2:00 in the afternoon, let's just say I took Muhammad back home at 5:00. I don't remember the exact time, but it wasn't too long after Thanksgiving dinner. So I take Muhammad back, and again, a little bit older gentleman, want to make sure he's all set, help him get up to his house and everything like that. So I walk him to his door, and I said, "All right, Muhammad, thanks for coming over. It was great having you. Let me know if you need anything." And he looks at me with the most, like I'd lost my mind. He said, "Oh no, you're coming in." Oh, okay. Okay. So I go in, and we sit down, and we're sitting on his couch, and he has the news on and all these kind of things. And we're just sitting there chatting a little bit. And then all of a sudden he gets up, and he goes into the kitchen, and he starts emptying out the refrigerator with all these different snacks and meals. And he says, "You come over, come over." I was like, "Oh, Muhammad, I've had too much. I'm still too full." You come over. So I come over, and I'm sitting down, and he is just plying me with all kinds of different fruits. And I think there was a couple of Arabic, not meals, but like desserts and little snacks and treats type things. He wouldn't let me say no. I actually thought I pulled a hamstring while I was eating all this food. He would not let me stop eating. It was so funny, but I was definitely in pain when he went home. But what was really cool about that, though, is it really, and you guys were actually the one, I thought about it, but you and Ehab were the ones that confirmed, no, that's just the culture. That's what you do, where for me, it was like, no, I ate Thanksgiving dinner. I'm good. I don't need anything else. No, this is part of the custom. This is part of the culture. You come over to somebody's house, they feed you. And it's, dare I say, disrespectful to decline. So it was definitely an interesting, learning experience for me, and miss that guy. He was a good one.
Yeah, I do miss him. May he rest in peace. But it is fascinating how you just embraced that, respected that, because out of respect. So the reason why, just to clarify, he did this, it's just a nonverbal way of thanking you for Thanksgiving. Like, you did me a favor. You didn't let me be alone, since my family's not around. Now I'm returning the favor. I'm sharing my treats with you. But it's just the way it is. You're lucky you're not in Egypt. You will pull.
I ate so much food. I was in pain.
Oh my God, there's such food pushers. All Arabs are. Well, Ehab too.
Yep,
so yep. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And like I said, we are a living proof that you can have such friendships. Over 15 years we've been friends together. Mm-hmm. I would like for the rest of the episode to talk about entrepreneurship. And now you own a business, and I'm sure I would love to have you over for more episodes, and I'm sure we will. And I really want to dig deep into the whole process of the transformative mindset of, mastering an unlimited beliefs by eliminating limited beliefs. So mastering unlimited mindset by eliminating limited beliefs. And that's the key, I think, to entrepreneurship. So now we are at the crossroads. You pull the plug on opening your own studio. And can you share with the viewers and the listeners, what did that journey look like?
Yeah, sure. So when I started in working out, back in those days, it was bodybuilding. And so this was the mid to late 90s. And like I said, the type of facility that I'm sitting in now, my gym, they just didn't exist back then. They were what we would call your box gyms, your big Globo gyms, your World Gym and your Gold Gym. That was it. And so what had happened is I was working for, what was called Best Fitness, which actually used to be a World Gym. that owner actually decided to create their own franchise. So, I was working out of one of their gyms, and, right about 1999, I started thinking to myself, as being a, fitness trainer for them, that's what we were called back then. I say, hey, you know what? This is something I think I want to do on my own. And so in January of 2000 is when I started, Aspire Health and Fitness. And so what I did was I paid the gym their rent, to use the facility, to be able to coach my clients, and they allowed me to have a banner with my name and phone number and all those types of things up on the wall. Back in those days, we didn't have websites. I don't think we had email. But this again was in January 2000. So from 2000 to 2007, I ran my business out of this gym. And then in 2007, the industry really changed across the board, worldwide, where, a lot of these big Globo gyms were realizing, hey, you know what? Personal training is a thing now. People are starting to understand oh, you're not losing weight because you work out at X gym, like because you work out at Planet Fitness or you work out at whatever. It's because of the types of workouts that you're doing. And now, you have a coach who's helping you design the workouts and executing on those workouts and the nutrition and all those types of things. So in 2007, the industry changed. And so the owners of the gym said, well, in order for you to continue working with your clients in this gym, you need to now become an employee of ours, or you have to get out. And so because the textbook name for what I'm sitting in now is called a micro gym, meaning a smaller personal training gym, they didn't exist. So they were kind of calling our bluff. And so what happened is a few of the private coaches in this gym got together and opened up a private facility. Now, there was one person who carried them in lease for that facility, and then us other coaches paid them rent. So it was still our own business. We didn't answer to anybody. We didn't work for anybody else. We just paid this person rent to use the facility. I had an office, my own office in this gym, and did that from 2007 until 2000 and the end of 2024. I had always known that I wanted to open my own facility, for years. It was something my mother and I had talked about when she was still alive. And it was one of those things where I just wasn't at a good place. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, I just didn't know what I didn't know about it, if you will. Like, what does it really take to run a business? What does it really take? It's one thing to be able to coach clients. I can do that in my sleep. It's quite another thing to be able to run an effective business, to run a business that will, take care of you and your family, but also, two, most importantly, take care of your clients, ensure that you're giving them the best value and stuff like that. So I needed to have some growth there, which I certainly got. I think the most important thing that I've always done, and I continue to do this day, and it's really not hard for me to do, is surround myself with people much smarter than me, in the area that I am trying to work on. So I am a firm believer in coaching across all, from financial coaching to even personal development to obviously the type of coaching that I do, business coaching and such, because I think there are just so many people that, can provide a lot of, fill in the gaps, when it comes to knowledge and experience that you don't have. So anyway, in 2020, shortly after the pandemic, Pam and I had started talking about, hey, let's get serious about opening our own gym and stuff like that. And so we had looked at a couple of locations, and for whatever reason, they didn't pan out. We looked at 3 locations that we almost closed on, and I would say 2 of them, they fell through, not so much because of anything on our end, but just kind of some other stuff. I would say on the third one, I backed out last minute, and it was more so, I think, for me, I came up with some excuse that I think was a valid excuse, but still, I think I just ultimately, if I'm being honest, just wasn't ready. And I think that's important because I finally got to the point a couple years later, so now getting into the end of 23 and definitely by the beginning of 24, where I was like, okay, now's the time. I definitely have some more knowledge. I've connected with a couple more people. I'm getting some more information. It was weird. I just kind of had this feeling. And it's interesting how the universe works, because I'm part of this networking group. And I happened to be having this conversation with one of the business owners in there, and this other business owner comes up. It was a business owner that I had, known and had referred a little bit of business to, but, didn't really have, the type of relationship that would suggest that they would even be thinking of me. But she ended up coming up to me and saying, "Hey, there's a space below my business. It's actually a gym now, and the owner of that gym is not renewing their lease. I know something you've been talking about you want to do. If you want to come check this out, let me know," these kind of things. And so, And honestly, my mindset was, because Pamela and I had gone through this exercise a few times. It was one of those things where my mindset was, yeah, let me check it out. It's not going to happen, but let me check it out just to get the information, do my due diligence. And long story short, it was actually almost a year ago today. I think it was right around the 26th of September. We went and toured the facility, and it was one of those things where Pamela and I were standing outside that night to wait to take a tour of the gym. And as I'm looking inside, the window, I'm like, no way, it's not going to work. It's way too small, because I'm coming from what was almost 4,000 square feet. And so finally, when we got in, it was about an hour-long tour. And I've always told this story, so it's like, I'm sure this is the case with you and EHOP, because you guys have been together forever, but Pam and I being together for 18 years, we're able to look at each other and communicate without saying words. So it was one of those things where she's on the one side of the gym talking to somebody, I'm on the other side of the gym, and we're looking back, can this actually work? I think it might, and so I think and she really is the one that I follow on that stuff. Like, if she's good with it and she says it's okay, then it's something that we're going to do, just because I trust her opinion more than I trust my own. And so, within 30 minutes, she was sold and we wanted to get it done. And so here we are today, and it's been great. I'm grateful that all my existing clients, came over from the old gym. And there were definitely a few aspects of this gym where it definitely caused me some anxiety. It was definitely one of those situations like, oh, they're not going to like this, or, oh my God, this, that, and the other thing. Not one damn thing that I was worried about ever became an issue. And in fact, one of them specifically is just the absolute bread and butter of like what my clients love the most, where it's like the flexibility with the schedule. Like I said, now I will meet with multiple clients at a time out on the floor. I have workouts written on the board and those types of things, and so clients are able to come in and follow it, and I'm still out on the floor and I'm guiding clients, I'm supporting them, I'm encouraging them, I'm spotting them. But what they like is that freedom and flexibility with their schedule to be able to like Slava, she comes in every Monday and Wednesday at 8 a.m. That's her schedule. But, something came up at the dental practice or something like this. Hey, I can't make it at 8. Can I see you at 10 a.m.? See you at 10 a.m. So you can kind of come and go as you please with your workout. And for me, as far as from a business and entrepreneurial standpoint, it's the one thing that I pride myself in, is that while I've been doing this for 26 years, it's one of those things that if I get stuck in my ways, like this is how I've always done it, I'm gonna lose. I have to be willing to evolve with the industry. I can't be saying, oh, this is how we did it back in my day, which is kind of weird for me to say since I'm only, 47 years old. But because I started doing this when I was a kid at 20, I kind of can say that. But I never wanted it to be that way. Because it is so popular today, micro gyms and personal trainers and nutrition coaches and these types of things. It's certainly a situation where I'll have clients that I work with for years and years and years, and some I'll work with for a shorter period of time. They leave, they come back, and I'm doing something different. That for me, of anything, is what I really focus on the most. Is I don't want to be doing things different for the sake of doing things differently, but I want to definitely make sure that when a client comes back, that, oh wow, you're doing this a little bit differently than the way you were doing it last time. Yeah, I want to evolve. I want to change with the industry. I want to make sure I'm staying ahead of what's the latest trends are, and again, trends that are going to be impactful for my clients to be successful in their health and fitness journey.
Oh, what a beautiful journey! But it's fascinating to me that we are in two different businesses. However, you tapped into two principles that we teach our team in dentistry. So I agree with you when you said that, you can do training in your sleep. I can do dentistry in my sleep. That's not the challenge. So when you become a seasoned dentist, you find yourself spending 80% of your time managing expectations, team expectations, client expectation, patient expectation, 20% of your time doing dentistry. That's not the toughest part. Tough part, how are you going to evolve with the time to keep up with the technology, to keep up with the innovation of dentistry, innovation of wellness, innovation of medicine and health and diet in order to serve your clients, to serve your patient the best you can. That's number one. Number two, knowledge and experience, these are two different things. And that's what I try to teach the new associates coming out of school. I respect and admire your capability, your knowledge. We all graduate from dental school with the same knowledge. What makes you seasoned, what makes you successful, what helps you grow, what helps you adapt a entrepreneurship mindset, which is mastering an unlimited mindset so you don't limit yourself, so you can move forward, so you can evolve into whatever you want to evolve into, is really life experience. And going through the process, me going through the process of being I started as dairy tech, then chairside assistant. Then I did hygiene in Maine, waiting for my license to come out. Then became an associate, become a partner, now a sole owner. That process, if I skip that process, I won't be who I am. If you skip your process, you won't be where you are. So life seasons us with the tools and the lessons and the capability to become as successful as we are these days. And those are priceless lessons that we pick up as we go through the process of entrepreneurship, business ownership. You're still a trainer. You're still a trainer, regardless of what day it is, what you're doing. You are a personal trainer, but you are not only personal trainer, you are personal trainer and a business owner now. And, we were so excited because since I've known you, you've been talking about owning your own gym. And I am so thrilled for you. I'm so happy for you. And I would love to see that, expand and grow. So since we are reaching the end of our hour, believe it or not, what would you tell a young man or young woman that they are embarking in your field, want to be a personal trainer? What would be the one thing or the one advice that's so important that you learn through your journey that would help them a lot?
Well, specifically in my industry, as far as being a personal trainer, is leave your ego behind. Because a lot of times, so I'll give you an example, and I'll keep this short, is I have a gentleman who's actually starting to work for Aspire Health and Fitness. This coming Thursday, we begin his onboarding process, and this guy has no question, as far as he knows how to work out, he knows how to, achieve his health and fitness goals. But it's quite another thing to be able to, it's one thing to be able to write up a workout program for somebody. It's another thing to be able to coach somebody, so I would say check your ego at the door and just be willing, have an open mind to, try something different and, surround yourself with people who have been doing it for a long time. Again, it goes back to that whole thing about surrounding yourself with people who are smarter with you. And again, by smarter, I simply mean they just have maybe more education in that area or, and specifically more experience in what you're doing.
No, I mean, I agree with you 100%. It's one of the first thing I teach the new associate coming out. Definitely leave your ego behind. Humble beginning. Conduct yourself with humility, because if you don't, then you're not approachable, you're not relatable, you won't have connections or internship. What is our industry without relationship of a patient? What is your industry without relationship with your clients? When you moved and you opened your own studio, everybody followed. When I left my partnership in 2013, everybody followed too. When I went from Nashua to Hudson, we hit the ground running because I had a reputation that I trust that brand because Dr. Slava is there. So I agree with you. Consistency builds trust, trust builds comfort, comfort builds confidence. Then you generate, healthier clients, confident clients, clients that living a higher quality lifestyle quality, and that's you sleep the night feeling so good about everything. So I'm very excited you are bringing on another team member. That's great.
Yeah, I want to step back as far as the coaching side over the course of the next few years. I'm 47 years old. By the time I'm 50, if not before then, I really just want to be running the business. I don't really want to be coaching anymore. Not because I don't love it. It's just because I want a different challenge. I've been doing it for so long. And I'll always have that small stable of clients that I want to work with, but to be able to branch out more to the entrepreneurial side of things, and help the business grow in other ways. And specifically too, this is the one thing that I really kind of getting down on myself about now is just doing more out in the community. So being able to free up that time to do that.
Absolutely. Contributing in a different capacity. And that's what I call it, and that's what I am right now. I'm a chief clinical officer. I'm not doing much dentistry. I'm only seeing patients by request. Because I am just stepping into different domain that I love, the teaching, the podcast, the coaching, and I can definitely see you being, even doing coaching on the side for, young trainers. But oh my God, I have so much, my mind is spinning. I have so much I want to talk to you about, but I would love for you, Michael, to come back, and I hope that was amazing. And I learned so much. I mean, yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Michael, for coming on. And just as a reminder, these episodes are uploaded every single week on Wednesdays on both platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, but also you are able to watch these episodes on the Greenwood Dental Partners YouTube channel. So please don't forget, if you like our content, to like, share, hit the notification bell in order to get notified for the new episode. That way you won't miss any. So please, if you want us to talk about any specific topics, please leave your comments below, and we would be very, very happy to customize or design episodes for that. Thank you so much for joining, listening, and watching, and I hope to see you next time. This is Slava, the Jordanian.